Recording this. Okay, welcome everyone to Drawn into Nature. Um, I am Melinda Nakagawa and Spark in Nature, and we're going to be talking about twigs today because I've been seeing, I don't know where you are in the world, maybe we'll type that in a minute. But I've been seeing lots of twigs. I'm in California, and a lot of the deciduous leaves have lost their luscious leaves, and what's left are the twigs and the branches and the bare limbs. And I love this time of year because you can see their true forms, their shapes, their the beauty of trees. So I thought today we'd focus on looking at just the little details. Sometimes it's the common things in nature that can bring such wonder. So maybe going down to the chat, you can type in maybe what part of the world you're joining us from. That would be great. And we can kind of see how we're connecting here. I see Maggie's got a little feline friend. All right, let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. All right, let's see where we're from. So we've got San Francisco, Chicago, Pacifica, California, and Tacoma, Washington. Okay,
Along the coast and not Cog.
okay, all right. Well, welcome to Twig Talk. Did anyone bring any twigs or have photos of twigs that you'd like to look at today?
I have some on my phone.
Okay, great. I also trimmed a few twigs that I'll show on the screen and we can sketch from there together. But I thought what we'd do today is we'll do a little gesture sketching of twigs, look at them a little bit more closely, maybe a little bit of the ecot, like what the parts of a twig might be, so that sometimes that helps when you're looking at twigs out in nature if you kind of have a frame of reference. So we'll do that together. Okay, let me see. I need to get my journal. Forgot to get my journal. We'll be right back. All right, so can you see? Let's see if I can make this bigger. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Okay. So, oh yeah, April's got a big twig. I have, and it doesn't have to be something without, if you only have something with leaves, that works too. There's another branch. Some plants don't lose their leaves, so you can, do this experiment or this exploration with something with leaves. But if you can find something here's something, without, or maybe I'll do it down here, without leaves. So I thought maybe we'd start with, I'll just show a few pictures first and then we'll do a little sketching. So as we start to look at twigs, you'll notice that there's different shapes. Like this one has a little bud on the tip and then it has a long stem and another bud over here. And there's different sections that are part of this branch and that give you information on, you could identify what kind of tree you have just by looking at the buds and the markings and the shapes of these twigs. So we'll just see if I can scroll through a few different ones. Um, you'll see different, let me do a slideshow so we can see this better. These different shapes. This is a sycamore from my yard. It has these little buds on the end. This is a don't know remember what this is, but you can tell it's a different tree, right? By the way the stems are shaped, the way the buds are growing. Here's another stem and another stem. So yeah, here's this one's a Norway maple. This is an ash, a liquid amber, another kind of ash. Yeah, and this is a white birch or silver birch, and some I think this is a sycamore and a walnut, and I'm not sure. I think this might be a plum. But if you've been coming to my classes, you know that we don't have to worry about getting everything perfect. We're just exploring, we're having fun. So I thought we'd maybe first try, let me grab a pen. Drawing some of these twigs together in a like a contour drawing style. So let me escape. Just want to make sure I'm still sharing my screen. I'm going to shrink this. All right, can everyone see my notebook? Okay, let's make this bigger so you can actually see it. Let's just try sketching this. So we'll put today's date. Big talk. And we'll do some contour drawing. So you could look back at your page and just, I think you all know how to do this, but I'll just explain. I like to do this with the contour drawing style with one continuous line, and then we'll keep our pen on the page. So I'm going to start here and go across and follow the branch and draw what you see, not to worry about making it perfect. And I'm going to add some little details. I see the zigzaggy here. So I'm going to go around and there's a little knobby thing and another little knobby thing. And here's the bud and a little tiny bud or something coming out, going down and just not worrying about whether it's in the perfect orientation, but noticing what the little details. So I see these, it's like wrinkled sock. If you took a knee-high sock and you squished it down towards your ankle, right? It looks like a wrinkled sock down here. And just draw what you can see. I know some of this is in the shade, so it's a little harder to see. And while we're doing this, you're probably noticing some things about this twig is that there's smooth sections and then there's sections with little buds that come out. And there's some zigzaggy parts. To the next page. We'll do another one. This one's kind of fun. Let's draw a few of these. Let's draw a few of these. So the same way, drawing, contour drawing. This kind of looks like a person holding their arms out. And then some kind of, I don't know if that's a bud, but it looks like a little mushroom. You know, you might be noticing these things too as you're drawing. And you can backtrack. And you might have noticed some things that are, I'm going to do a second one because I really like this shape. Long, curvy. So just getting us warmed up, looking at some twigs. Let's look at this one. All right, and I'm going to do this one too. This one's got lots of bumpy knobs on it. It's okay if you overlap. This is just practicing, training your eye, brain, and hand to work together so that when we're out in nature drawing something, it's a little bit easier for us. So I noticed that these were paired. There were two buds on each side. I'm guessing that they're buds, which is different from our first one that we did that buds were alternating. So I'm going to just give you some terminology to describe some of these characteristics. So let's just draw a generic branch together. So we noticed in all three of those there was some kind of bud on the top, and there was like a stem. I'm going to draw two different like cartoons of one. There was one that had the buds on the side, right? And they were alternating like this. So this is a bud, and these are also buds. They might become leaves or flowers, depending on the type of tree it is. Some trees will have leaves first, and some will have flowers first. So that's something that you can notice in your yard. So these are our buds, and we can see here, maybe, where's my branch? There's one branch. Maybe we can, it's kind of hard to see, but here's a willow branch, and the color's not showing up as well as I'd like. But when you're out somewhere and you know that there's trees, go and look at the color of the branches. So the color of this branch is gray brown, and then these are kind of a reddish brown. I know it doesn't come across very well, but it's like bumpy and gray, and then it's smooth and reddish on these side branches. These side branches are newer growth. So this is the old branch branched out last year. So this was last year's growth, or this new growth. So you can tell different years of growth by looking at the color. So this is could be this year's growth, and then like this is, an older, this is we could say last year's growth, and this is actually 1 year's worth of growth.
Um,
Does that
I
make
have a question. Melinda, I have a question. Is the new growth always a lighter or more vibrant color, or
sense?
does it depend?
A good question. And what I have observed and what
Mhm.
we think about it, a stem that's been around in weather for 1 year versus stem that's been in weather for 2 years, what might we expect? Perhaps like more hardened bark, right, in the older one. So I'm gonna put that question down on your journal so that when you're out walking, Miriam, I know you're living somewhere where there's, probably lots of branches that you can take a look at and see, are the lower branches, the older ones, do they look a different color than the new ones? And I've often noticed that the new ones are shinier and smoother. They might be a different color. So in the samples that I have, this is willow. I'll just describe because it's hard to see on the camera. This looks kind of bumpy and older, and these newer ones are shiny and smoother. This is another twig. This is a Japanese maple. It's kind of got gray markings in it all the way to here. And then this new growth is kind of more of a burgundy color with smooth skin on the surface. Here is Here's one. This is a flowering plum. that usually has like burgundy colored leaves in the springtime and then pink flowers. This one is kind of hard to tell if there's a different, maybe it's a darker color in the new growth. So the new growth is always going to be at the tips, right, of the plant. So there's a special set of cells at the tip of plants that will help grow new cells. So this is always going to be the end of the bud is where the new growth will happen. So next year, that's going to grow upwards. So this is the old growth. This is the new growth. These are the buds. Maybe I'll just color this in so that you can see it a little bit better. We'll make it like a generic, like how about like a brown? We'll do brown for the stem, and then we'll do green for these buds, just so that you can see these are the lateral buds. There's specific names for all of these, and you don't have to know all the names. I'll just label some of these things. Sometimes you'll see little dots. We can see it in the photographs. Let's see, let me go back. Oops. Like, where is it? Maybe right here. Can I zoom in? I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to zoom in. You can see the little dots on the stem, all along the stem, and different branches will have them in different places. Those are, whoops, those are called lenticels, and these are like breathing holes or lenticles, lenticels. I am not sure, but that's what the little dots are. And then sometimes you'll see a scar underneath a leaf. This is a leaf scar. So I'm just going to give you some things to look for when you're out looking at branches or even herbaceous plants like my hydrangea bush. I don't know if you know what a hydrangea is. Usually has big flowers, showy flowers, and big leaves. And if you look at the stem, I didn't take a picture of it, but it has this incredible, you could see the lenticels, you could see the leaf scars and the buds coming out. So even though it's not a twig, it's got some really great, I think this might have been from a hydrangea that I was thinking about when I drew it in my journal. But so they have these different leaf scars. So that's last year's leaves fell off. There's probably a scar right here. And then just leaves a mark. And then some branches are, as we saw here, are alternating. So they might have a bud on one side, and then it goes on the other side, and then a bud on this side, and then a bud on this side, and they alternate. So these are opposite leaves, and these are alternate leaves. Oh, sorry, I'm writing off the screen. Let me see if I can. Here we go. Opposite and alternate leaves. So the buds are going like the sycamore goes left and right, left and right, left and right. And these are all buds. And actually, we might see this might be part of the stem. This could be 1 year's growth. And then where like there might be some like those zigzaggies that we saw on that one branch, that is where the older branches. So this is last year's growth, just like this last year's growth, and this is 1 year's worth of growth. 1 year. So perhaps there's a tree in your yard or neighborhood or near where you work that you can watch. Does everyone have a tree like that in mind or a shrub? I'm just going to invite you through the winter in the next few months, until spring and it starts sprouting. You could maybe tie a ribbon on a branch if you wanted to, right? If you wanted to wash the same branch or a piece of yarn, or take a picture of it or go out and sketch just the branch and see how it changes over time. You'll see that these buds will change. So this is just a little bit of the anatomy of of the branches, and then these little scars that are here, they're called, let's see, they're called bud scale scars. So you don't have to know the names of these things, but know that there are markings on our branches. So you'll look for these like wrinkles, look for the little dots, the breathing holes, the short little stems and the buds, and look for changes in color. Look for, whether they're alternating like this, or if they're opposite. So going back to some of these branches here, is this alternate or opposite? Oh, this one's hard to tell. But I'm looking at this bud right here. It has two on either side. So I'd say that one is opposite. So sometimes you might have to look at a few branches, right? Maybe one won't give you all that information. Um, this one is, you could see the bud scale scars right here, the wrinkles. Let me see if I have a bigger one. This one has the scars right here, bud scale scars, and then new growth grew up, right? And these might, I would say alternate, because see how there are two stems coming out from the
Mhm.
main stem? So I might say this is alternating growth. Alternating because I'm not, sorry, opposite. I use the wrong word, opposite growth. And here's the buds, look like little mushroom shapes. Can you see the difference in the color and the texture of I guess it's bark, it's the skin on the branch. This is much more weathered. So this is older growth, and you'll see all the bud scale scars right here coming. And the bud scales are these little sheaths, these sheets that are protecting the bud. And when they fall off, they leave a little mark. And so looks like maybe there's a bunch of these sheaths that fell off last year when the new growth came up. You could see the leaf scar right here. Looks kind of like a V shape with little dots in it, and the buds coming out. Here we have the buds that are opposite, right? They're on the same one on either side, and they rotate around. You could see the bud leaf scar. There was a leaf right there last year that fell off. So we're just gonna go through some of these. This one's a really cool one. All right, can you see all the different parts? All right. So I think what I'll do now.
Melinda, can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Deborah. I can hear
Oh,
you.
oh, thank you. Sorry, I don't have a camera. I've got a broken computer, so uh, and camera, so I'm using an external screen.
That's
Um,
okay.
will the old growth get buds on it too, or just the new growth?
That's a really good question. And I'm going to ask you to write that on the side of your journal. Do buds come out of old growth?
I will do that. Thank you.
And I'm going to invite everyone to in the next week or so, just when you're out looking at branches, have those questions. Like Miriam asked a good question earlier, Deborah, I'm not sure if you're here. She asked whether the color of the new growth did you ask if it was brighter than the old growth? Was that your question? Yeah, that's a great question. And I could answer a lot of questions, but that won't be as fun as if you went. I'm not a tree specialist, but I could tell you in my experience, there's things that I have learned, right? And those things I'm going to remember better. And I have noticed that the new growth tends to be brighter, shinier, more vibrant than the old. And it makes sense to me. When babies are born, their skin is of a certain texture. And then when they've been around for 60 years, their skin is a different texture, right? So because we're nature, maybe, that they're related. So I'm going to share, you can keep asking questions. I'm going to share my screen and here, Elijah. Okay. I've got some branches here that I thought we could draw. And there's no right or wrong way to do these sketches. One cool thing I don't think I could do because I got too many lights going. But if I had a single light, or if you were outside, is you could do shadow drawings. So, if you don't want to cut the branch and it's, in daylight, you'll just have to test because it depends on the angle of your sun. But when this light is shining on it, I don't have a light source right now and I have too many lights, but you'll see the shadow and then you can draw the shadow on your paper. I've done that out in my garden when I walked around and just put my journal underneath the branch and then just draw the shadow. That's kind of fun too. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to look at this branch. So this is from a Japanese maple in my neighbor's yard, and I'm just going to talk through what I notice and can feel free to let me know what you see too. I'm noticing this long stem with branches that come out, they're opposite each other. See how we follow this and they're opposite of each other. And here's opposite. And what I notice is the stem is kind of tannish green all the way up here. So I think this is the previous year's growth. And this last year, this branch grew this much. Can you see that from here? So let's see, what do I want to do? Maybe I'll just draw that branch. I'm just going to draw that branch. So I'll do this section is the older, and then I see this newer. And this comes out two directions, and it goes up and up and up. And then I'm going to note this is a gray stem. And this is kind of a reddish stem. And what else I notice is kind of hard to tell. Does anyone know do you know what a Japanese maple tree is? Any of you familiar with it?
Yes, I have one
It's
in the yard.
Yeah, if you look at Japanese maples, you'll notice, I'm not sure if my camera shows this detail, but see the bud? It's double.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're all like that. They're double. And they're double. Isn't that cool? So that one's kind of unusual. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to draw. I know it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to tilt it a little bit. You can draw along with me. This is kind of shaped like this. And then there's two, they're very pointy and they're even. Kind of remind me of deer toes.
Mhm.
So I'm going to put that there. Reminds me of deer toes. And there's two buds. And they all have two buds. So that's interesting. So I'm going to watch over the winter and into the spring as these buds get bigger. They'll get bigger until, the leaf bursts out of it. And I'm noticing the color is kind of reddish. This particular Japanese maple has red branches. So if you look at it from a distance, it's really cool. It's like this, it's like a big bushy tree. And then from a distance, it looks, I'm going to do this from memory, which is always fine if you don't have a way of documenting. It's kind of like a brownish underneath, and then it's like these red branches. So it looks like it's on fire with like red on the outer parts. So you could even just do the tree like that too. Japanese maple. Okay, so that's one thing. Another one that I noticed is this. And so if you have questions about like these different parts of the branches, I would invite you to draw what you have and mark those questions next to it. This one is a type of birch. I'll just show you first and I'll pick one branch. And it's a big tree with white bark and the branches droop down and there are these long branches that are hanging down. And if you look carefully, you can try to figure out where that New Year's growth is. This was a branch that was broken on the ground, so it's kind of dried up, so it's harder to tell, but I think this is one year's growth right here. And I think this one is New Year's growth. So this exercise is about just exploring nature and see if you can find those parts of the branches. So I'll draw this one because I think it's kind of cool. I'm just going to draw a bunch of branches on my page, so you can do the same if you want to. It has a really neat kind of cone on the end that look like little hot dogs. There's 3 of them here. Does anyone have something like this in their neighborhood?
Mhm.
I think it's a pretty common tree, right? White birch or red birch. I'm not sure which one it's called. I think they're very similar. But I'm noticing that there's alternating buds. And this is really long, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 buds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buds, and then like little nubbins here before it branches off from the older branch. Right, so this is the last year and this year. This year meaning this past year, and this meaning the year before that, basically, because we're in winter. Right. And I notice it's alternating. I'm also noticing the really cool things at the end. You know, you might think, what is that? What is that? Let me see if I can zoom in and focus. It's trying to focus. It looks like it's got scales on it. What does it remind you of?
Pineapple.
Ah, pineapple. Yeah. It's like a hot dog with pineapple texture or a closed pine cone.
Mhm.
So
So,
it represents a spiral.
yeah, right? So let's write that in there. So I could say mini hot dog shaped covered with pineapple skin. So by using the descriptions of other common things to describe an unknown, uncommon thing, you're creating a connection in your brain, right? So now you will remember it. I didn't think pineapple at first, but I like that, pineapple skin. So you could zoom in and draw one up close. I think I'm just going to leave it at that. So this one was the birch, and this one was Japanese maple. And how about another one? Let's do, we can do a willow. I think my page is getting kind of crushed. So what I'll do is I'm going to draw this branch in a tiny version. Let's see, I think I'll do it right here. So I'll do the long stem, and then it has 1, 2, it kind of Y's out. 1, 2, then 3, 4, then 3, 4, and 5. So I could say this is the branching structure, right? And this is the main. This one looks gray. So this looks like the old branch, and these look like new growth. So five branches, new growth. And I could describe the color or the textures. There's lots of little bumps all over it. So I could say bumps all over, and I could put lenticels. Is that what they are? And then looking at maybe I'll draw one of these branches. Where should I put it? I think I'll put it over here, and then I'll draw it. Is anyone else drawing some branches that you found?
I am.
What are you discovering?
Well, it's an old madrone branch, and what's curious is it's got all these broken places where I believe there were branches before, but each of them has a big lumpy collar area.
Aha.
There's no sign of the branch in most of them, but a few of them have a little twig left.
Is
As
it
if the-
kind of like like we were drawing the bud scale scars? Do you think that's what that might be?
Yeah, except they're much more dramatic than
Oh, cool.
I don't know if my camera will pick it up or not, but
So you do this is a willow.
These have been deciduous trees so far. I was making a list of trees I wanted to compare with, and
Yeah.
I be interesting to compare with trees like a lemon tree or something that's not deciduous.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, so we got these twigs here, and then I have this. I had to trim this anyways. It's bamboo in my front yard. So these don't lose their leaves, but you can look at now that we've looked at those twigs, you'll see how this grows too, how it grows straight and it branches. So this side branch comes out and then alternates on the other side, right? And then it alternates on this side and the other side. So it goes back and forth, all the way to the top. So you'll notice that one of the things that botanists do to identify plants is looking at how the leaves grow from the stem. So by looking at the naked branches, we see them easier. This one's a little bit harder. If you had something like a rose bush, right? That's a familiar plant. If you go to a rose bush the next time you see it, notice whether the leaves are alternating or if they're opposite, because that can give you a lot of information on what kind of plant it is. Here's another evergreen. This one is as a coast redwood. So this doesn't lose its needles. And when it's really old, some of the bottom ones will fall off, but basically it's evergreen. This also has a branching structure. So this kind of comes out, I don't know what you call this because they all kind of come out to these threes. Maybe they're alternating. Um, alternating. They have this kind of alternating. This is what do they call it? Maybe fractals, right? It's like the same pattern repeated, like ferns, but it smells so good. So this would be, a fun exercise to do with even the branches and twigs of your um, leafy leafy neighbors. Okay. So I'm going to invite you to pick one of, let's see, I'm going to stop my share for a moment. Um, I'm going to invite you to pick one of the branches that you drew today and one that just jumps out at you. So take a look at what we've drawn and maybe was like from a photograph. I'll just put the slide up to share so you can see the photograph in case you need a reference. And I'm going to invite you to pick whichever one kind of jumped out at you and you thought, oh, that was really cool. And here's this one. And then write down some characteristics or some qualities about that branch that you see in the photo, or maybe it's in your memory, or maybe it's on your phone if it's a picture of another tree that you took, or maybe it's a tree that you're imagining. Um, Write down a list of characteristics that you observe. And I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to pick this. I'm going to do this white birch that I have that I drew on my page. And I'm going to make a list of some characters. And feel free to unmute and share, because I think sometimes it might be hard for folks to think, okay, well, what kind of characteristics do I see? So what I see is in my birch, I see is long and flexible. You could describe what you see, like smooth bark, sparse with a lump of catkins. At the end. And then if you're familiar with that tree, think about what else about that tree stands out to you? How else can you describe it? How does it grow? Does it provide anything? What's the shape of it, or the color, or the smell? How does it make you feel when you see it? Like, I know it makes me happy to see this white birch tree. I love the white bark. It's a perch for songbirds. I see my birds perching in it all the time.
I have an
Anyone else?
apple uh, tree slash branch, and it's really gnarled and sometimes goes back on itself. It bends,
Ooh,
it twists, and it's brittle. It feels like it's between brittle and fragile, if that makes sense. Like
uh-huh.
it's brittle, but it's easily broken.
What kind of branch is it, Deborah? Do you know?
Apple tree.
Oh,
It's a, a pink pearl apple.
okay. Oh, pink pearl. I love those apples.
Is,
So yeah, Deborah, I love what you're describing, like that it's growing back and forth, back on itself, like it's windy, right?
yeah.
Changing course. Anyone else have some characteristics or descriptions about their branch?
I kind of looked at, I mean, I have some like physical descriptions, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at that one in the right corner, and it seems like it's striving or it's strong. So I was like kind of maybe personifying my branch, but it
Yeah.
just reminded me of like kind of being hopeful,
Yes.
going from winter to spring, and it was like kind of
Yes.
going up.
Uh-huh. I like that. It feels like triumphant, like a person holding their arms up, right? Like, yay! Oh my gosh, they look like little people actually. If you look at it, you're like, yay, cheerful. I like that. I'm writing these down. So you could write them down too in your journal, like where we've drawn these branches. I invite you to write those down. Like, how does it make you feel when you see it? When I look at the ones with like all of the little leaf bud scars, they makes me feel like ancient and old, right? Like something wise that grows slow and has that, I don't know. It's sometimes we don't have words for the feelings, and so this is a good exercise to just kind of tap into like how does it make you feel? So this one makes me feel like, oh, what is the word? It's like there's strength. preparing, I don't know, preparing or hibernating, preparing for steeling themselves for the winter. Miriam.
Yeah, I actually went into that direction too, and I was looking at the very first picture you showed,
Okay.
and I felt like all those little zigzag and yes, showed history, and there was some expressive lines.
Ooh.
The buds were interesting color because they're green, and it's kind of interesting that they
Yeah.
would have the green in the winter. And then
Right.
it feels like they are hibernating. So there's kind of
Yeah.
the yeah, interesting. It's a great
Like
picture, really.
like bursting forth, like
Hmm.
ready to burst. It's like
Yeah,
I'm
kind of preparing to,
yeah.
getting all their energy together
Mhm.
before they go out in the world.
Right, right. Like gathering all of their resources before they move on to that next transition, right? So the only constant in our life is change. If you look at nature, everything's changing all the time, right? There isn't anything that stands still. Even mountains are moving slowly, eroding, things are growing, trees are slowly moving. Even the oldest trees are always moving. All the cells inside are moving. So if everything is moving, then everything's changing and transforming. And when we look at nature, we see that transformation throughout the seasons. And we are of nature. We're made of the same cells. We are breathing in the same atmosphere. So if we look to nature, we can find clues on how we could be living our lives. I truly believe that nature is has has wisdom to impart to us. And if we open our mind and our hearts and explore, we can find that message mirrored to us in the nature that we look at, in whatever nature speaks to you. So it might not be these twigs today, but maybe tomorrow it's a dried up leaf. You just find this dried up leaf and something about it pulls you in that you just need to explore. Or maybe it's the breathtaking sky stops you in your tracks and you just reflect. So I'm inviting you to look at nature through a different lens. We use our eyes and senses to notice what we're seeing, what's in front of us, touching what's in front of us, drawing so that we can see, just like we did today, right? Drawing, what do you notice? Okay, I notice the green buds, the smooth branches, and then tuning into how is it growing? What else do I see? What else do I notice? So these are just the tips, but in real life, you're going to see it attached to a big tree or a big shrub. So step back and take a look. How is this plant living? Is it crowded in the corner with a bunch of other trees, or is it in the middle of a parking lot where lots of cars drive by, blowing exhaust on it? Is it in a garden where someone's tending and caring for it? And just see how it's connected and see what other characteristics come out. There's a message for us. I totally believe there's a message for us in all aspects of nature. And if we are open to it, we can hear that message that's just for you. But we're practicing together to develop that language. So, I saw in this birch, I'm not sure what the message is for me today, but what I see is like there's a beauty. I don't know if you can see the beauty in this, the way the branch drapes. There's this elegance about it, and these little funny little things on the end. And I just love watching my birch tree change through the season. So I have a love for this tree, and I am not sure what that message is for me today other than maybe pay attention because I haven't looked at it. Um, Actually, I didn't look at it this fall. I know I usually look at it all the time. But I really didn't watch the leaves turn brown and fall off this year. So maybe it's, pay attention to it um, in the coming season. Did anyone else find something interesting in the twigs that we were exploring?
The birch, the buckeye tree, I
Ah,
have a photograph of it.
yes.
It's in our park. and that's where I actually facilitate a nature journaling group.
Oh,
And the buckeye is amazing because it loses all of its leaves, and
great.
it's white. It's kind of stark in front of everything else. But then when the buds come out,
Yeah,
then they transition into the when the leaves like explode,
they
and it
do.
reminds me of a cow's parsnip. And
Uh-huh. Yeah,
it's just, so
do.
it's such a contrast between the winter look of the buckeye
Mm-hmm.
and then the spring and the summer look of the buckeye. It's such a different tree,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, it's so different. It really is.
Yeah, so noticing it in those different stages and then tuning
Hmm.
into how it makes you feel. Like my
Yeah.
mom has a buckeye, California buckeye in her front yard, and the first year that she moved there, I took pictures of it every week that I visited because
I
I just
know.
was like I'd never been that close to a like I've seen buckeyes like in the forest and
Yeah.
parks, but not one that I would visit all the time. And you're right, the whitish bark is just it's just so I don't know. I love it. Every time I drive in, I say hello. It's got beautiful white bark and it's almost muscular, like, like
It is.
arms, but they're big. And when the leaves burst, when the flowers come out, when the seeds are growing, all those stages I find have such beauty. So, um, yeah. I just hope that, that this has inspired you all to go out this winter and keep watching your local trees and shrubs and keeping note. And your journal doesn't have to be fancy. It could be like maybe it's a pocket notebook you have in your pocket when you go for a walk and just sketch. You could just do a little tiny sketch, right, of the twig. It doesn't have to have color and then write some notes and you can tape that into your journal when you get home. I mean, I do that a lot. And because I can't remember all those details in my head because nature's always showing you something new. So I like to put the date and maybe the location of the tree and then put it in my journal and any other thoughts, maybe something that it made me feel. I love what's come up today with like the beauty, the what Maggie was saying, like the growing up that's hopeful, right? It fills you with hope. I find like, there's like joy in that one with the little mushroom heads. So, I think that we can probably get a lot of nature language in if we go outside and just explore. So, does anyone else have any thoughts of what came to them while they were drawing the branches?
I'm dying to show you this
Okay.
because I've been so impressed by it when I saw it. I traveled to Japan a few years ago, and there was in a temple a 2,000-year-old tree,
Wow.
and it was so enormous. I don't know if you'll see it.
Yeah, so everyone, if you go to Miriam's page, her picture, and go over to the top right and click the three dots, you can choose pin, and then her screen will get bigger for a moment. Okay, I think you have to hold it in front of your face because it's blurring out a
Okay,
little bit. So, oh, and then tap the screen. I think the light. There we go. Okay.
like
Oh, wow.
Are you
yeah,
Yeah.
standing next to it? Is that,
and there's a person just
yeah.
next to it. It's not me, but it's a person, so it shows
Oh,
you how big it is.
wow. That's amazing.
Mm.
So, so have you journaled about this 2,000-year-old tree?
No, because I didn't know you yet. So
Okay.
now I'm like, I should
This
have, if I
this
had
week.
known you,
Yeah, Miriam.
I would
So
have.
here's an invitation. This week, there's some reason why you were drawn to that tree and you took a picture and that you shared it just now. So what if this week you carved out some time to go back to that photo, sketch what you see or what you remember, and it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate, and then write down how you felt in the presence of a 2,000-year-old living being. April and I saw like a 1,000-year-old sycamore tree in Greece, but 2,000, I mean, anything over like 100 feels like it's like, wait, they've seen way more than me. So you can ask that tree, like even now you can close your eyes and like remember that tree and then see what does that tree want you to know and then write down what comes. because yeah, we're all connected, and we're all, meant to keep looking at each other and to look at nature and to see the similarities in a tree or a flower or the ocean or a bird. It's all a reflection of us. Yeah. Oh, fun. Anyone else want to share?
I I found with this, I don't know, I can't tell. Let's see,
Yep.
am I holding it close? Yeah, okay. So what caught my eye with this branch from the fir tree, from the Douglas fir, was why all these little branches are coming off just one side.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing that really struck me was that it's very brittle at the
Mm.
base down here, but these all still have lots of flexibility in them, which,
Oh,
as dried out as it looks,
yeah.
it surprised me that they were so bendy, and
Hmm.
just wondered why. In fact, oh, and I just see a little tiny bud tip that I didn't see before. So I have more drawing to do with this.
Nice.
But it
Yeah.
was just curious, the form of it, and made me
Yeah.
wonder, is it the wind that does that? Is it the way
Mhm.
that it bends to get the light from underneath other branches?
Mhm.
Not sure.
Yeah, that's
So
great. I hope that this inspires you to explore, all of you to explore, trees and branches a little bit more, because just as April's speaking, I'm reminded of where I live, there are coast redwood trees. And when I walk under the redwood trees, I notice that there's a lot of arced branches, like they're in the
mhm,
shape of a curve. Even the big
right.
ones are all curved. And I notice when I look up, they're all curved. And so it just is something that you wouldn't normally pay attention to, but I noticed that. And then so now I'm thinking, I wonder if other trees have that, like you're showing that
Yeah.
tree there, Douglas fir also has that curved, and
Well,
whether
and
it's an
even
adaptation.
up here, one of the branches, the older branch down low, attached to the bigger branch, is doing the same thing. So there's a pattern to it that I never
Very
noticed before.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So look at that. We looked at bare branches. We got so much inspiration. I wanted to share that, with your page, one last thing. I'm going to share my screen. What I'm going to do is, uh, where'd it go? So you might have a page of like scribbles. I used ballpoint pen today because my fountain pen was out. But you can, on top of this, you can add color. So I'm just going to do this together. If you have to go now, that's, fine. Thank you for coming. But I'm just going to add a little color, and I thought maybe you'd like to see what that might look like. So I'm going to just quickly do this just to show that it does not have to be fancy. And here's the willow. Willow, I think, was more yellowy, so we'll do willow. I could even add colors here. Maybe the birch brown color, and then the Japanese maple. Maybe I'll do like a little bit of red. Right, and then I think the branch was kind of reddish. Right. And then I could also add like some frames to like collect some of the information together. Right. So if I put a line around it, right, you can see that these are all connected. And I could also do different shapes. I could do this with color with the watercolor wash, but I'll just do this with showing these are the willows. This was related to Japanese maple. Um, and I could do that with the other branches too. And you could add colored boxes. You could put a little label here that we studied. Twig. We'll just do this. Twig tails. And then you could make, maybe like your key observations could be, let me see, let me use a different color. What color can I use? Oh, I like that color. Maybe I'll just do twig tails. Like that. Right? So this is how you can just have fun with your journal and not worry about, it needs to be neat or tidy or has to have perfect handwriting or spelling or the right terminology. This is for you. I think of this as scratch paper, right, for your explorations of nature. So, keep exploring, keep journaling, keep drawing, whatever you see, draw to see. It's really helpful. Those of you who are not part of the collaborative, the Spark Collective, you can come for a trial, 2-week trial if you want to. It's a membership where all of these classes are included in your membership. We also have additional time that you can meet with me because I'm in here in our virtual community all the time. And I'm helping people share nature journaling with others. So if you love nature journaling and want to share it with other people, come talk to me. You can, sign up for a 20-minute call. We can see how you might be able to help facilitate opportunities to share your love of nature journaling with other people and make that into a business if that is something that you desire. So you can check that out on my website, sparkandnature.com, for the Spark Collective. And any of my emails, it's down on the bottom of my emails. You can book a 20-minute call and we can talk about what you would like to do with your nature journaling. Or maybe you just want to improve your own personal, deepening that connection with nature. So that's all available to everyone. All right. So I'm going to stop.